Hi guys, Denise from Fascinating Cases here. I just want to add and tell you about a sad personal note that I had to do today. You know, you always see Reggie in my videos because I love my animals and he's my baby boy, but you've also seen my kitty cat, Tiki, sometimes. And today, after 20 years, I had to put Tiki down, and there's a blanket of sadness that lingers over me today. So I just want to tell you that pets are a blessing from God, and love them up while you got them. So any serious true crime addict will have a very close relationship with the TV show Forensic Files. I've seen every single episode probably twice. I love the show because each episode outlines a crime or a mystery, and the bad guy or lady is caught, and the case is solved and wrapped up in one big giant neat bow. And a shout out to the best narrator in the business, Peter Thomas. Today's video, the best of Forensic Files. Episodes either ranked very highly or my personal favorites. Here they are in no particular order. From season 6, we have episode 18, Bad Blood. A woman we will call Candy lived in Kipling, Saskatchewan, a small city in Canada, in October of 1992. Candy, a woman in her 20s, was seen by her doctor, John Schneeberger. Candy was very upset about a recent fight with her boyfriend, and Dr. Schneeberger recommended a sedative. He didn't give her pills, but instead a shot in the arm. Candy couldn't move or talk anymore, and that's when she says she was assaulted by her doctor. She woke up in the examination room alone and smartly thought to put her underwear in a plastic bag. The next day, she actually confronted the doctor, asking what the drug was he gave her. He said, "Why? Did it give you wild dreams?"
I was going to have a hell of a fight on my hands because here now he's already covering up, eh?
Candy went to a clinic for testing and found DNA evidence in her pants and underwear. Her blood test showed the presence of a surgical drug called Versed. It weakens your muscles and knocks you out. Candy accused the doctor publicly, but she wasn't believed. The doctor was respected a lot in the community. People thought Candy was maybe in it for the money. But to make everything go away, Dr. Schneeberger agreed to undergo a DNA test. He gave his blood, and it wasn't a match with the biological evidence that was collected from Candy. And Candy was shocked.
And I said, no, that's impossible. That's impossible. How can this be?
Candy would not give up so easily. She believed the blood was tampered with. So Dr. Schneeberger agreed to a second blood draw in August of 93, and more blood was taken from his arm. Police actually monitored the collection, and vials were taken directly to the lab for testing. It didn't match again. People in the community and the police expected Candy to drop it, but she wouldn't. She hired a private investigator to look for evidence against Dr. Schneeberger. He broke into the doctor's car and grabbed lip balm. DNA cells from the lip balm matched the biological evidence taken from Candy's alleged assault. It matched. But it didn't prove the cells from the lip balm were the doctor's. And the evidence couldn't be used in court anyway because the PI broke into his car to get it. But Candy felt vindicated. She needed more, though, to pin this on the doctor. Candy filed a civil lawsuit against Dr. Schneeberger, and the pressure was on the doctor to give yet another sample. And he agreed in November of 1996. This time, it was recorded. Technicians just wanted to perform a quick fingerprint, but the doctor said his hands bruise easily, and he talked them into, again, taking blood from his arm. The tech put a needle into the doctor's left arm, but nothing came out. After several tries, the technician got a sample, but it just didn't look right.
It's a little strange in that, like the blood doesn't look kind of fresh. I don't know.
The sample was too degraded to get an accurate reading. Police were suspicious at this point too, but their hands were tied. Then in April of 1997, police got word that Schneeberger had been assaulting his stepdaughter, his wife's child. He would enter her room and give her injections His wife found evidence of needles and Versed in his home office.
I screamed, I bawled, I was pretty disgusted because all of these years, I mean, I'm fighting to get the truth out, but also to make sure that it didn't happen to anybody else.
Schneeberger was arrested and ordered to take yet another DNA test, and this time, technicians took saliva, hair, and blood from his fingers. And this time, it matched Candy's biological evidence. How did Schneeberger get away with it for so long, giving blood that didn't match? At trial on the stand, he told the truth. He surgically implanted a tube in his arm to look like a vein, filled with one of his patient's blood. In this video, you can even see the tube in his arm. But after 5 years, the blood was old and useless at that point. Candy didn't give up, and Dr. Schneeberger was found guilty for the assault on Candy and his stepdaughter. He only spent 4 years in prison, though, and was stripped of his medical license. Next up is Sealed with a Kiss, and this is a twisty case from Season 2, Episode 10. In 1993, first grade teacher Joanne Chambers started getting hateful, awful letters. They were sent to the school where she worked in the Pocono Mountains in eastern Pennsylvania. The letters were typed and unsigned, and they turned up at school and Joanne's home. And this was shocking because Joanne was a popular and respected teacher. The letters accused Joanne Chambers of bringing pot and alcohol to school. Police began to investigate and began suspecting the culprit was fellow teacher Paula Nawrocki, who denied any involvement. Other strange incidents began to occur. One day, Joanne Chambers said she found her desk chair covered in feces.
I couldn't even tell you what I felt like. I felt sick to my stomach. It was like it was not happening. It was like this could not happen.
A hidden camera captured Paula Nawrocki taking Joanne's coffee cup off of her desk. And a picture was stolen from Joanne's desk, and someone cut out the face of Joanne and pasted it onto an adult nude picture. Then the pictures were photocopied and sent to parents and taped up around the schoolyard. Both Joanne Chambers and Paula Nawrocki were asked to take a lie detector test. Paula was told that she failed. She became the prime suspect, but she again denied all involvement and said she was caught on camera getting Joanne's mug off her desk because Joanne asked her to get it. Police suspected that Paula was jealous because Joanne was a very popular teacher. The letters continued to get more sinister, telling parents that Joanne Chambers was assaulting children. By fall of 1994, letters got threatening, and Joanne was transferred to a different school for her own safety. But the threats continued. A Barbie doll with a slashed throat and fake blood was sent to Chambers' new school. In November of 1994, Chambers said someone tried to run her off the road, and that someone was Paula Nawrocki. Paula was arrested and charged with stalking, assault, and reckless endangerment.
I was finding out that I was charged with many, many horrendous things I had never heard about before.
Paula was suspended from her job, and suddenly the letters stopped. Paula hired a private investigator for help in proving her innocence. He wanted to see if there was any DNA present on the letters, and Paula would have to cover the hefty cost on her own. Investigators did find DNA evidence on the back of some stamps and the envelope flap. Cells did not match the DNA from Paula or her husband. So who licked those stamps? Investigators looked into Joanne Chambers' history and found out she had reported similar incidents in the past, letters being sent to her at her old job. Investigators needed to get hold of Joanne Chambers' DNA, and they turned to her trash. Once trash is disposed of, it's fair game. A cotton swab, a used tissue, and a straw were collected from Chambers' trash, and it was tested. The DNA matched the DNA from the stamps on the threatening letters. Joanne Chambers gave a blood sample for testing, and that matched as well. Despite all of this, Paula Nawrocki still went to trial for harassment and stalking, but the DNA evidence convinced the jury of her innocence. Paula Nawrocki spent over $100,000 on her defense. The whole theory? Joanne Chambers stalked herself and made up the harassing incidents like the road rage and the Barbie doll. Why would she do this? We won't ever know because she died in 2024. Next up is Grave Danger from season 11, episode 16. In June of 2004, a motorist called in a car fire in central Texas. A car off to the side of the road was engulfed in flames. Police responded, put the flames out, and discovered human remains in the car.
We needed to identify the body that was in the vehicle, which wasn't much of a body.
The car was registered to Molly and Clay Daniels. They lived in nearby Leander, Texas, with their 2 kids. In the burned rubble, police found remnants of 24-year-old Clay's tennis shoe, a Harley pin, and silver necklace. Clay was obviously dead, and a funeral was held. But Clay was not very well liked, according to Molly's mother.
I've always felt that he was not the best material for her. And I wondered about being a daddy material, but it was her choice to make.
And Clay was a loser. He was just convicted of assaulting his 7-year-old cousin, sentenced to 30 days in jail and 10 years probation. But the crash occurred 3 days before Clay was to show up for jail. The community did come out in support of 21-year-old Molly. She was now a widow with 2 young kids to care for. People gave her money and groceries. But eyebrows were soon raised when just a month later, Molly had a new boyfriend, and she recently cashed in Clay's $100,000 life insurance policy. Things weren't adding up. The car went over the embankment at a very slow speed, as if it was hardly moving.
There was no momentum coming off the cliff. It looked as if somebody had just pushed it off or just drove off the cliff at a slow rate of speed.
The car's gas tank was also in place, so how was the fire so intense? An arsonist went over the burned vehicle, and the whole driver's seat was consumed by fire, which was unusual.
There usually is body fluids and remains on the seat. And in this case, there was no body fluids located in the vehicle and no remains on the seat.
The fire was not accidentally ignited because everything in the vehicle checked out, like the starter and the battery. Debris was collected and determined. The fire started with charcoal lighter fluid. So, did Molly murder her husband? Some bone fragments from the vehicle were tested to see if the DNA material matched DNA from Clay Daniels' mother, maternal DNA, and it did not match. Investigators put surveillance on Molly Daniels and followed her and her new boyfriend, Jake, out to lunch. The new man in her life looked a lot like her old man, Clay Daniels, so much so that police arrested him on the spot, and he admitted he was Clay Daniels. Clay staged the death because he didn't want to go to jail and be registered as a sex offender, and he wanted to collect on his insurance money. He planned to move his family down to Mexico. His plan was foiled by forensics. But who was burned in the car? Clay blabbed to a cellmate he had dug up a grave of an old person, a grave no one visited very much. Charlotte Davis was 81 years old, and she had died 6 months before the crash. Turns out Molly and Clay were in on it together. After scouring Molly's computer, it turned up search terms like burned body and car fire. They both got hefty prison sentences, but Molly was released in 2016. A sad part about this case is Molly and Clay had to tell their children, even though Jake looks like their daddy, he was Mommy's new boyfriend. Next up is a forensic files that still haunts me. It's called Waterlogged from season 14, episode 11. In May of 1989, dairy farmer Joan Rogers and her 2 teenage daughters, Michelle and Christy, left Ohio for their first real vacation down in Florida. It was the first time they left their home state. They planned to spend one final night in Tampa before returning home. They checked into a hotel and vanished. After 3 days, the hotel owner called police, saying there was no sign of the women in their room and it wasn't really slept in at all. Meanwhile, police found the bodies of 3 women floating in Tampa Bay. The victims were tied up with duct tape on their mouths, and each woman was tied to a 30-pound concrete block. Gases and warm waters from the decomposition caused the bodies to rise to the surface, Police estimated the bodies were in the water for about 3 days. Police thought to connect the disappearance of the Ohio women with the discovery in Tampa Bay. Joan Rosser's husband, back on the dairy farm, was contacted, and through dental records, the victims in Tampa Bay were identified as Joan, Michelle, and Christy. They had water in their lungs, meaning they were thrown into the water alive. It's a horrifying scenario. Because the bodies were submerged for several days, there was little forensic evidence to go by, no fingerprints, hairs, or DNA evidence. But investigators did find Joan's car at a public boat launch, and they found 2 handwritten notes in the car, one with directions to the hotel and one with directions to the boat launch. Analysis showed Joan wrote one note, but who wrote the other? Joan wrote down directions to the boat launch with the words blue and white. They were most likely obviously looking for a blue and white boat. Then investigators learned of a similar incident. A man in a blue and white boat took a Canadian woman for a ride, assaulted her, but let her go. That victim described her attacker, and this sketch was made and distributed. Leads came rolling in, but led nowhere. Then investigators had an idea. They put the alleged killer's handwriting up on area billboards, hoping someone would recognize it. It was a long shot, but one woman did call in. She said it looked like the same handwriting that her contractor had, and his name was Oba Chandler.
When I first initially met Mr. Chandler, he came across as not telling the truth, and he wouldn't look you in the eye, and he just seemed shifty.
Handwriting samples from a receipt from Oba Chandler were compared to the note in Joan's car, and they matched. Oba Chandler was 43 years old with 8 children with 7 different mothers. He had a long record of crimes and assaults. Chandler was arrested and identified by the Canadian tourist he assaulted. But authorities needed to connect the murder of Joan Rogers and her daughters. Through forensics, they found Oba Chandler's palm print on the brochure he wrote directions on. He was charged with 3 counts of first-degree murder. Investigators believed Joan ran into Chandler, maybe at a gas station, and she asked him for directions to her hotel, and he wrote them down. Then he most likely asked them to go on his boat to see the sunset. Sadly, they agreed. Joan wrote down directions to the boat launch, and she wrote down blue and white. Once on the boat, the women were at Chandler's mercy, and he showed none. They were most likely assaulted, but he also tied them up to the concrete block and threw them over one by one. The last one off the boat had to see the 2 others go first. Oba Chandler was put to death November 15th of 2011. Lethal injection. And here's my takeaway. Don't take boat rides from strangers. This Forensic Files is maybe the one that makes me the most nauseous. And finally, for today, we have Stranger in the Night from season 13, episode 11. And this is another one that's twisty. In June of 1991, police responded to a call to check on the home of 70-year-old Dorothy Donovan. Her son, Charles Holden, made the 911 call. He was on his way home from work when he saw a man lurking around his mother's home. He didn't stop to confront the man. Instead, he went to a payphone to call police.
Hey, he's on my property now. Is anybody out there at your house? My mother is next door to my trailer, and she lives alone. I'd like to get somebody out there as soon as I can, because I don't want to break into a noise.
Police found a window broken on the back door of Dorothy's home. Dorothy was dead in her bedroom. It looked like overkill. She was stabbed repeatedly in the face and chest. And when it's overkill, it usually means the perpetrator is someone enraged and close to the victim. The scene looked staged, and nothing was stolen, including Dorothy's purse. So what was the motive here? Who would want to hurt Dorothy? Charles said to the police, "I can't believe he killed her," and he said he knew who did it. He said it was a hitchhiker who wanted a ride. The 2 fought, and somehow the hitchhiker ended up lurking around Charles and Dorothy's home, although he had no idea where Charles would have lived.
You're not believable, Charles. You're saying the words, but you're not convinced. You're saying the words, but I can see in your eyes that you're not telling us the truth. I'm not sure, so you're not.
Charles told police his story. He got off work at 11 p.m., stopped at a gas station for food when a man asked him for a ride. Charles said okay, and after a few miles, he said, though, the man had to get out because that's as far as he was going to take him. Charles only lived a half-mile away, but didn't want the hitchhiker to know where he lived. The two argued and fought outside of the car. Charles jumped back in the car. Charles drove around for a bit, shaken up, and 20 minutes later, he turned into his driveway, and to his surprise, the hitchhiker was lurking around his home. Charles went to call police. But police investigators zeroed in on Charles instead.
That's what you're trying to get us to believe. And I'm saying it's just not logical. I don't think it's physically possible for that black man to get from that intersection to your house, kill your mother in the time it takes you to ride from the intersection to your house. It's just not possible, Charles. It's not believable.
Charles was the beneficiary of Dorothy's life insurance policy. But Charles says it was all one big horrible coincidence. The hitchhiker Charles left on the side of the road walked that half mile to Charles' house and killed his mother, Dorothy. What did the crime scene have to tell us? Investigators found a bloody palm print on the handrail. It did not match Charles' palm. But there's still the chance that Charles hired someone to do his dirty work. Charles helped law enforcement come up with a sketch of the hitchhiker. Blood collected at the crime scene did not match Dorothy's blood or her son's. And 10 years passed. Suspicion still blanketed Charles, but he was never charged. By that time, investigators had CODIS to utilize in crime cases. It's a database of DNA from known criminals. And the blood evidence from Dorothy's crime scene was entered into CODIS, and there was a hit. It matched career criminal Gilbert Cannon. He matched the sketch as well. Police soon located Cannon, and his palm print matched too. Gilbert Cannon confessed.
Basically, I went out. I don't know whether it's the drugs or whatever. But honestly, I don't have any reason to lie about it now. I didn't have to say this.
Cannon said the whole thing was a coincidence. He made no connection between Dorothy and Charles. He only went up to Dorothy's home and broke in because it looked like no one was home. Dorothy confronted him and he killed her. He said he acted alone, so her son Charles was telling the truth the whole time. Gilbert Cannon got life behind bars. What do you think about these forensic files? Do you have a favorite episode? Let me know in the comments and I'll get back to you. Thanks for watching again, and I'll be talking to you real soon. Bye.